slides. It won't take very long. And we're going to let you know what the next step is in the NEPA process. All of this material is going to be available online after the event. I'll give you the websites and all that when we get to the end. During the meeting, you're going to have the opportunity to hear about the project, the process, and learn how you can provide input on the issues that are important to you all here in the community. As we move through the meeting, please remember, does anybody remember what I said the last time we met? This is only the first opportunity to officially provide comments to us as part of the process. Last time we were here just to meet with you, for you to get to know us, what we do, what we were thinking about. This is an official first step in the process. If you look at that chart over there, you can see where the star is. That's where we are. We are at square one of a long and complex process that is going to take many, many years. Your input is valuable and a critical step in this process, and we are going to use it, GSA, to determine the scope and content of the EIS. Some of the folks we got here tonight you've met before, you've seen them. Ryan Long is a new face for us. He's from WSP USA. He's our contractor for the EIS process as part of this National Environmental Policy Act. You've met Adam before, the project manager. Y'all have met Kelly in the back before. Kelly Morrison, our community engagement coordinator. NEPA specialists Carrie Bergeron and Missy Mertz. Carrie in the black, Missy in the pink. Realty specialist Sarah Massarello, and you know who I am, Loudmouth. Finally, it's important to remember tonight that we are here to listen. We don't know enough yet to answer questions. We have vague ideas. We need your input. I'm going to repeat it again. We are in the very early stages of a long and complex process. You have no idea how long it took us to write that statement. While there will be a time and place for questions about the project, tonight we're primarily interested in your input, comments, and page flipping skills. Comments and concerns regarding the project's impacts, but we won't be answering questions unless they're super, super easy. Like, I don't really care if the Bills are out, if the Chiefs win, or if San Francisco wins. Again, on behalf of GSA, thank you all for being here with us tonight. We are recording. If you don't want to be recorded when you provide your comments later, we'll turn the mic. Got that? All right. Our first presenter tonight is Adam. You're the first one here tonight.
As Paul mentioned, this is kind of the first phase in this whole NEPA process. Just to give you a general overview, we kind of went over this the last time, but this is a bit more in detail why we're doing this project. So overall, the purpose of this project is to modernize the Norton Land Port of Entry to address CPP, GSA, and public needs. So what does this mean? It means we need to increase inspection operational capabilities. We need to meet new and evolving security requirements, incorporate new sustainability features and technologies, increase resilience to climate change, meet everyday needs to the GSA, CPP, and the public, allow for easier and safer public flow through the port, address traffic pattern concerns, and resolve topographic issues. If you haven't noticed, it's in a bowl. We're trying to address that. Next slide. So we have all of these concerns. We've gone through that pre-design process where we're trying to address what alternatives we're looking at. We're still in that pre-planning process of looking at those alternatives. What can we do to meet all those different objectives and things that we want to rectify, and what I just went over in that last slide. Now we're kind of starting that NEPA process where we're reviewing those alternatives, we're reaching out to the public, and that's where we are right now. Public scoping meeting. Next slide. This just shows you a general study area. This is just the area that we are studying as part of the NEPA process. Does anyone have any questions before we move on to WSP? Maybe just go back one more slide just to kind of show you how far everything is out. So we're looking at design start in fall of 2024, with that being complete in spring of 2026, construction starting fall of 2026, completion of fall 2028. So those are just kind of estimated timelines at this point. So those probably will change as we move along. We get our alternatives in place and we know what we're actually building out. But right now, we're in the planning stage. All right. Any questions for me before I hand it over to WSP?
All right. Thanks, Adam. So I get the challenge of kind of going over NEPA and explaining some of the details of the act and how it kind of plays into the overall assessment process. So, as Paul mentioned, the National Environmental Policy Act is what requires the federal agency, in this case GSA, to examine potential impacts on both the natural and the human environment, and then ultimately, convey those potential impacts to the public. So, as Paul mentioned, GSA expects this to be an environmental impact statement. There are varying levels of documentation that can be done. So there is a unique schedule and requirements that go along with each one, and we'll get into that over the next few slides. So throughout the NEPA process, there will be some opportunity for public involvement and comment to review the analysis and provide additional input. As was mentioned, this is kind of the first opportunity to get us started off on the right foot, making sure that we understand the concerns of the community and, are analyzing the resources that are important to you guys. So any comments that are submitted throughout this scoping process, as well as later comment opportunities, will be considered as part of the analysis. And in the case of scoping comments, they will be used to guide our initial effort in developing a draft document. And as we move forward, those comments will help us refine the impact assessment and making sure that we're focusing on the areas that are important to the community. So NEPA itself really is kind of an umbrella act. It consolidates and incorporates the environmental impact analysis requirements that are throughout various other acts, whether it be the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, Endangered Species. So all of those individual acts roll up into NEPA so that processes can be done simultaneously to create efficiencies in schedule, in budget, things like that, making sure that everything gets captured. And it allows a federal agency to coordinate with their counterparts, whether it be Fish and Wildlife or the State Historic Preservation Office, to make sure that those activities are being done concurrently and any data or relevant information gets captured in the environmental impact statement process. So schedule-wise, obviously Adam went over the larger schedule. The NEPA component is a subset within that schedule. Obviously, right now we are at the public scoping period process. Comments will be incorporated into the analysis, and we will develop a draft environmental impact statement. That document will be released for public review and comment, along with state and federal agencies, interested parties, community groups, etc. That comment process will be at least 45 days, maybe longer. And as those comments are received, then we'll incorporate any of that data, make changes to the analysis, and prepare the final EIS. That document will then have a draft decision released that'll be put out for review. It's known as a waiting period. It's a 30-day wait period before a decision can be published. So again, there will be, several opportunities over the next year plus for input on the overall process. So again, as we get into the actual resources that we expect to be analyzed as part of the document, this is an initial list. Obviously, your input will help guide which resources we feel are needing to be analyzed and in what level of detail. As we've kind of discussed, obviously we know there are some cultural resources, obviously biological. We've talked about the flooding and floodplain areas. So those are just a few of the ones that we kind of anticipate being more important or critical to the analysis process. So again, one of those is for cultural resources. So that is part of Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act, and it follows a similar process to the NEPA process, but GSA is initiating that Section 106 process concurrently with NEPA. It has been initiated with the State Historic Preservation Office officer. So obviously the first step is kind of this one, right? We identify stakeholders, we get input, establish the area of potential effect, which is the map that is on the poster in the back and that Adam showed earlier in the presentation. Then we'll identify any resources within that area, obviously identify potential impact, and then ultimately, if effects are determined, how to potentially avoid, mitigate, or minimize any of those potential impacts. So again, one of the other potential areas where we expect to need to do some analysis is wetlands. There are known wetlands within the area. We are in process of surveying and analyzing and trying to determine where those are and what potential impacts might look like based on a footprint that GSA is in the process of working through and developing to figure out how the port will lay out and potential changes that may need to occur. So again, that is a resource that involves consultation, in this case with the United States Army Corps of Engineers. They would review and approve any surveys that are done to ensure that they agree on where wetlands are being identified and what the potential impacts on those may be. Very similar for floodplains. Again, we know the existing building is within a floodplain. We are in the early stages of working through a floodplain analysis where we will be, modeling the results and trying to determine exactly what that floodplain looks like and where it may go, and ultimately what the potential impacts on the resource may be from the proposed action. Again, biological resources is another one that's requires some consultation with Fish and Wildlife Service, based on the Endangered Species Act. If there are known endangered species or critical habitat that's been designated for those species in the area, obviously there is a higher priority put on those species and maintaining low to no impacts on them. So again, those will be kind of surveys and data inquiries that will be done over the course of the next few months to determine those resource areas. And then of course, all of the issues that were previously noted during the listening session, we are obviously starting the NEPA process from building on the previous discussions that all of you have had with GSA. So again, these are just the highlights from the listening session, but obviously anything that was brought up during that session will be incorporated and used to make sure that everything is kind of tracking and being analyzed in the manner that the community agrees with. So that is a very high-level overview of NEPA. Obviously, we can answer any questions if you have any more details, would like any more details. But I will turn it back over to Paul to talk about ways to comment.
Thank you, Ryan. All right. So quick and easy on this. A lot of information there. So if you have questions on this process, we'll be here to answer those, or you can email us. I want to give you the ways to contact us on this. You have them probably from the community meeting. In person, you can write us a comment and drop it in the Dropbox. There'll be a Dropbox here. You can email us at norton.lpoe@gsa.gov, norton.lpoe@gsa.gov, and in the subject line, put Norton LPOE EIS. You can send it to us in writing if you want to use regular mail. The address is U.S. General Services Administration. Attention, Adam Hunter, Norton LPOE Project Manager, Thomas P. O'Neill Jr. Federal Building, 10 Causeway Street, 11th floor, Boston, Massachusetts, 02222. All those comments have to be received by 5 p.m. Eastern on March 8th. I already mentioned the Dropbox. Now we're going to move on to your comments. But before we do, same ground rules as last time. Once you raise your hand for the microphone, I'll bring it over to you. Say and spell your first and last name. Start your comment. Everybody else in the room, I don't think this is going to be a problem, but Be respectful of participants and presenters. Remain quiet while others are speaking. Try to keep your comments to 2 minutes. If you go a little longer, it's not the end of the world, but 2 minutes is what we're trying for. If time allows, participants may be permitted to speak again after everybody's given their comments. Don't forget, you can also submit these in writing. If you do not want to be recorded, make sure you let me know so I can let everybody else know that we're not recording at this point, because we are recording this. Questions on those ground rules, addresses, ways to contact us. All right, I know asking for the first comment is always tough. So who wants to provide the second comment? Thank you for sitting in the front row, and thank you for this comment.
Do I have to give my name? Okay. Patricia Moody, Patricia Moody. And I'm just curious, after looking at all of this and all of your timelines, at about what point will you know what property is going to be used for this? I have to imagine it would be before the design is set.
Correct. Yes. So yeah, it's in the planning state. Is this one working? Yeah, oh, they're both working. So if we go back to the beginning, it would be right. It would fall in the NEPA, in the end of the NEPA period, where a decision would be made if site is required. It happens in this space before we get into the design space, or before we complete the design, I should say, because this is like pre-design activities that are going on to try to figure out concepts that are in coordination with the NEPA process. And so any decision on site requirements happens before this is completed. Yeah, I mean, so it's as we're preparing that, I'm just looking at the more detailed NEPA process that's behind you. It's during the preparation of the draft EIS as the alternatives are developed, and the alternatives that are being developed, or the concepts that are being developed, will be within the bounds of this study. But as a landowner that has property within the bounds, you and I will be in much more close contact on a regular basis as the concepts are developed over, say, the next year or so.
Other comments?
Sylvie Gillet from CBSA. I received those papers just today. Then, where you see the outline of the study, the NEPA study, if I understood correctly, the new port of entry could be anywhere on that property? Is it?
I mean, so what that just means is, well, I mean, we have the port where it is right now.
Yeah.
So it'll be, either utilizing the port, incorporating the port, expanding the port, moving the port. I mean, concepts in general, but anything that's done from the impact area has to be done within this area.
Okay.
And if something changes as we receive comments and as the concepts are developed, if there's a significant change in this, we would re-engage with the community to discuss that.
Okay, then that brings question number 2, because it happened more in the east. They changed the roads going into Canada. Then is there anything in the project, if you change a port of entry where it is, that you would have to shift the road going into Canada?
No, we're trying to keep line of sights.
Okay.
So that's a big part of it.
Okay.
You're at CBSA, right?
Yes.
So we'll be reaching out to you once we actually identify which alternatives we're moving forward with and which direction we're going, and especially during this NEPA process, we'll be working more with CBSA on that.
Good.
But we do have the whole line of sight part of our project.
Just so we're clear, and if anybody would like to make a comment anonymously, hang around, we can set up so the stenographer can capture your comment. You don't have to be on camera. You can make it anonymously if that's your choice, but that can be arranged.
Or we can email or write.
Absolutely.
If you,
We do have forms over here you can take that are available, fill it out and fold it on it and send it to us, so you don't have to remember all that address stuff.
I will remind you that we do have that email address. We also have the project website for this, gsa.gov/Norton LPOE. Just Norton? Dang it. gsa.gov/Norton. That'll bring you to the project page for this. And as we get information, Adam talks to my team, we update the website. We have a standing meeting once a month for him to tell us whether there's updates. So you can always check that for the latest information. Again, the critical date there is March 8th, so keep that in mind. Other comments?
Chris Fletcher, I just see, like, I work for the railroad. I'm here on their behalf. It looks like you're staying out of the right of way as far as that picture is.
Well, how to say, I've worked with railroads a lot, and we try not to interrupt your operations. And so right now, yes, with everything that we're doing, the impact is to be within the bounds. But I'd love to get your contact information for if we need any, to do any surveys or things like that for access across the line. But no, there's no expectation of us to be impacting the rail as of today.
Would that include when they?
I apologize.
Would that include, like, as you're building, is the port going to stay open to run rail operation through?
Well, we're working through that right now,
Okay.
but pretty sure it will. But we're working through it.
Great.
So I would take your comment as you'd like us to keep the rail informed as we work through this. So as more of like a comment, in addition to the question, is like make sure to consider the rail with regards to operations, not only the roads, but when it stays open, how that might impact what you're going through.
Thank you. Others?
John Hull with the Northeast Kingdom Snow Blaster Snowmobile Club. Our trail goes basically through the middle of that to get into Canada, and we're looking forward to easier access and better access in and out of Canada. It could be a bigger asset to the community, if you will, to get more snowmobilers into the Northeast Kingdom if that was made easier. And we're excited to see what you come up with, but it is going to have an impact on that trail.
Thank you.
I just have a question just for you. Would it be safe to say, I know we have your contact information, obviously, but as the concepts are being developed, to engage with your organization directly to understand perhaps, if things are moved where they might be most beneficial to you?
Others?
Those are what we're looking for. So don't be shy. No comment is a bad comment. Every comment would be great, and that'll be helpful for us to either reach out to organizations to make sure we better understand something, or to consider an item that we had not yet. Because you all know your community and the land and operations more than us. So just send them our way, kind of like what we did at the listening session, but even more specific if that's possible. That would be the most helpful for us. I'm a communications person. That's why I keep talking.
As am I, but I also defer to my experts, and I'm not an expert in any of this other than being a talking head. Other questions, other comments?
Jody Gordon, do you have another area or similar situation that you've worked on in the past, say, 3 or 4 years in another community that we can kind of look at how it transposed or what went down, or the before and after pictures, and what that community, what their concerns were before you went there, or is this one of your first ones that you're working on?
Our first port, but similar.
Yeah, I was gonna say the closest to here that has been recent would be Derby 91. So if y'all have been through the Interstate 91 at Derby, that's the most recent port that we've done that's closest to here. I'm not going to remember them all off the top of my head. We're at the same time as this project, we have one, I know it's on the opposite side of Vermont, but on I-89 with Highgate, which is very different from this community because, it's on an interstate, and there aren't a lot of businesses or residents right there. It's Highgate itself is farther south, but that's an ongoing project that's kind of on a similar timeline to this. We've had a scoping meeting there already. And the others that have been recent have been in Maine. So Madawaska, Maine, which is a new international bridge. Calais, Maine, is like from 2005. That was a new international bridge. Van Buren, Maine. Those are all in the county, up in Aroostook County. So those are the biggest ones that I can think of. I've been working on border stations since 2007, so I was just trying to go through them all in my head. Those are the biggest ones. If anyone else wants to chime in. I've also worked on many little ones.
In Vermont, we're also currently working on Ridgeford, Alberg Springs, we have Norton, Highgate.
Those are all, yeah, but those aren't complete. Those are even earlier than
They're all
these,
like this.
about the same set. But I'm sure I'm missing them. More have been in Maine that I've more recently worked on. So Derby 91 is the closest for folks. I was not a part of Fort Kent, and that was a smaller project. Yes. So what we can do is, I believe if you go to gsa.gov, well, if you just do a general Google search or like a DuckDuckGo search, and you put in like U.S., General Services Administration, Land Ports of Entry, there's one large overarching site, and then you can see all the ports that are currently in progress for the projects.
If you go to gsa.gov/R1, there's a section down the bottom that has development projects. It will show you all the projects that we're currently working on.
I also think there's a NEPA site too. It might not just be specific to region 1, but it will give you some NEPA documents if you want to look at that.
Send us a direct email with your question, and then we'll see if we can, for folks, we've got contact information. We'll see what because we're all seeing a whole bunch of different sites. But that way you could see all of the NEPA published documents are public information, and they're all supposed to be available in perpetuity for you to take a look at. So you could see, an example of a draft document and then a final document. Those would be available online, those kinds of things.
But I would bear in mind that every project is different.
Absolutely.
Purpose and different communities. So while, obviously Madawaska is a different, they moved the bridge, right? So so just bear in mind when you're
Absolutely.
looking at these documents and what the comments and the public were, that it's not all the same.
But that you can see the process though.
But it
So
will show you
the process will be the same, but obviously every project is different.
You're not moving the bridge.
Yes.
It is staying put.
And we're not taking the McDonald's. Any other comments?
I mean, Madawaska's a huge port, so that's not exact.
Pat Moody again. I'm just looking at this map and I can't remember your name. I'm sorry. Adam, yes. You said that you weren't going to be moving the roads, like the idea is to keep the roads.
So we would be, we're kind of keeping the line of sight to the CBSA, which is up north, but we would be kind of rerouting roads and figuring out a better traffic pattern, because the way that it works right now, we have trucks going up behind the port, so we're trying to figure out a way that they could turn onto the highway better.
Yeah, because I'm just confused, because it seems like this part on 114 that's below that includes this building for whatever reason. There's just like this little bit of land and it's all mostly roads, so if you're not planning to really do anything with the road, I'm just wondering why that's within the scope map.
Well, it's also, so NEPA also includes utilities, it includes looking at wetlands, it includes looking at where's the stormwater runoff coming in and out. Like that's the reason it's kind of such an expanded area.
Okay.
So it's not like we're gonna acquire this whole area. That's not happening. That's just like the study area to kind of identify those kind of issues that are happening.
Okay, thanks.
Others?
You wouldn't be, so Route 147 would stay intact.
It's really in the works, but I mean, yeah.
Well, the
I mean,
part in Canada anyways.
in Canada, yeah, we're not
Okay,
touching
that's
Canada.
all.
We
'Cause there's a
cannot
lot-
work on Canadian soil.
Canada.
Yeah.
No, I just mean.
We are not taking over any Canadian soil. Yeah, no. Yeah, the line of sight is being kept, so like anything on the Canadian side, we're not touching. So
Yeah,
if
there's
you
a
imagine,
decent
like
amount
we
of
need
distance.
we need a sight line of sight.
Got it,
basically,
okay.
to that. So that gives you a good idea of what we're looking at.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. This is Kelly Morrison again, Community Engagement, and I just wanted to thank the town, Gina, Betsy, and the Select Board for being so hospitable and willing to host us and allowing us to be here and really assisting with the outreach effort. So we certainly appreciate all of you, and it's great that you're here, and I hope that you continue to be engaged. And I have sent along some information in terms of grant opportunities and how to contract with the government and potential opportunities in that arena as the project progresses. So I hope you'll feel comfortable to use that email address and reach out to us with questions unrelated to this project as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Y'all have a great night.